Irvine, a city in California, is a favorite among the Chinese community, located in Orange County, southeast of Los Angeles. It's about an hour's drive away. According to 2020 data, Irvine's population is around 300,000, with Asian Pacific Islanders making up 45%. This makes it the city with the highest density of Asian Americans in the entire United States. Notable companies in Irvine include Blizzard Entertainment, the polarizing game company, Taiwan's Foxconn, and the hard drive giant, Western Digital. Our story's main character today is Sun Hongla, a chief engineer at Western Digital. Sun Hongla was born on July 1, 1977, in Yantai, Shandong Province, China. As a traditional Shandong student, his diligence and effort are unquestionable. Anyone who has interacted with Sun Hongla can attest to this. His outstanding academic performance allowed him to be directly admitted to the finance department of Jiangnan University without taking the college entrance exam after graduating from high school. Moreover, just a month after enrolling at Jiangnan University, another opportunity arose. At that time, the National University of Singapore and Jiangnan University had a cooperative project intending to select 32 outstanding students from Jiangnan University for free education at the National University of Singapore. With his excellent academic record, Sun Hongla was fortunate to be selected. He successfully moved to Singapore, and after graduating from the National University of Singapore, Sun Hongla pursued a master's degree in electronic engineering. Upon obtaining his master's degree, he worked at Seagate Technology, a well-known hard drive company. Impressively, Sun Hongla not only succeeded academically and professionally but also did not delay in finding a life partner. Sun Hongla had a high school sweetheart named Chen Haijing, who was also from Yantai, Shandong. She was both his hometown friend and high school classmate. We do not know what this beautiful girl looks like, as we searched the internet but couldn't find a single photo of her. However, I guess in Sun Hongla's eyes, she must be an absolute beauty as he loved her deeply and passionately. Despite leaving Shandong for Jiangnan and later studying abroad in Singapore, Sun Hongla never stopped loving her. During his time studying in Singapore, Sun Hongla helped Chen Haijing obtain a work visa so she could stay in Singapore. He also helped her find a job as a nurse. On February 6, 2003, Sun Hongla and Chen Haijing got married in Singapore. 4 years later, in 2007, their son David was born in Singapore. Although the family of 3 lived a prosperous life in Singapore, the young couple decided to pursue their American dream while they were still young. A year later, in February 2008, Sun Hongla received a high-paying job offer from Western Digital, the American hard drive giant. The family of 3 smoothly immigrated to the U.S. and settled in Irvine. By 2011, Sun Hongla began seeing a Chinese dentist named Lu Quan. Due to their shared heritage, communication was smooth, and Sun Hongla also brought his wife and son for regular dental checkups there. As their visits became frequent, the two families gradually became close. Dr. Lu and his wife, who is also a dentist, worked together in the same clinic. Knowing that Chen Haijing had nursing experience in Singapore, they invited her to work at their clinic. Sun Hongla was happy that his wife found a new job. However, after Chen Haijing started working at the clinic, Sun Hongla began to face increasing betrayals. The relationships among everyone involved became increasingly complicated and uncontrollable. On Saturday, July 18, 2015, the weather in Irvine, California, wasn't great. The temperature was 75 degrees Fahrenheit. With winds at 9 miles per hour, and the sky was overcast, suggesting rain. Around 1:20 p.m., the Irvine police received multiple calls reporting a stabbing near a dental clinic. 5 minutes later, at 1:25 p.m., Officer Shamba Rowe was the first to arrive on the scene. Stepping out of his vehicle, he saw a white Mercedes SUV crashed into the entrance, with the hood completely crumpled. Not far from the car, in the bushes, lay Dr. Lu Quan, a 54-year-old dentist, motionless on the ground. Clinic staff member Chen Haijing was attempting to administer first aid nearby. Another clinic employee named Chris was leaning against the wall, bleeding from his leg, looking terrified at the unfolding events. The scene was crowded with witnesses, and a curious crowd had gathered around, men and women mixed, many pointing to an Asian man standing near the Mercedes, telling the police that he was the perpetrator, 38-year-old Sun Hongla. Once the police had Sun Hongla under control, paramedics rushed in to replace Chen Haijing, performing CPR on Lu Quan. At this point, the police noticed Lu had stopped breathing completely, with multiple visible stab wounds on his chest, though they were no longer bleeding. Officer Clark retrieved an automated external defibrillator to try and revive Lu Quan, but after several attempts, it was clear it wasn't working. When the rescue team from the fire department arrived, 2 officers began setting up a perimeter around the area. As more police and investigators arrived, witnesses were separated and individually questioned. One witness, a 64-year-old man named Oza, said he had an appointment at the dental clinic that morning but arrived late, close to noon, because he was busy. He met Dr. Lu Quan at the clinic entrance, who was leading 3 staff members outside. Dr. Lu Quan chatted with Oza, mentioning they were heading out for lunch and inviting him to return at 1 p.m. During their conversation, Dr. Lu Quan mentioned he had been experiencing back pain recently. Oza shared that he had similar issues in the past but had found relief using a topical medication. He promised to bring some for Dr. Lu Quan when he returned. Dr. Lu Quan thanked him and then left with his staff. Oza said he returned to the clinic around 12:45 p.m. Dr. Lu Quan and his staff were still not back, so he waited in the lobby near the entrance. Shortly after, the man who stabbed Dr. Lu Quan entered through the front door. He walked straight to the dental clinic door and saw a sign that read, "Closed for lunch, will return shortly." Oza assumed this man was also a patient of Dr. Lu Quan. After the man left, Oza went outside to wait for Dr. Lu Quan. Moments later, the same man returned driving a white Mercedes SUV, moving slowly as if looking for Dr. Lu Quan. A few minutes later, Oza saw Dr. Lu Quan and some staff getting out of a car and walking towards the entrance. Just as Oza greeted Dr. Lu Quan, the white Mercedes suddenly accelerated, hitting Dr. Lu Quan and throwing him to the ground. What shocked Oza even more was that the driver got out and started beating Dr. Lu Quan. At that moment, Oza didn't realize the attacker had a knife until another passerby wrestled with him and took the knife away, making the severity of the situation clear. Oza immediately called 911, another passerby assisted in securing the attacker. Witness David Alden, 67, said he and his wife were sitting on a bench outside the church when the incident occurred. The church, Woodbridge Community Church, is across from the building housing Dr. Lu Quan's clinic, separated by a public parking lot. Behind the church is a gathering place for the Jewish community. Since it was a Saturday, there were many elderly people around from activities at both locations, providing numerous witnesses. David recounted that he and his wife heard a loud noise, turned around, and saw a white car crashing into the building across the street. An Asian man jumped out and began attacking another man on the ground. At this point, a woman tried to intervene, seemingly to stop the attack. Concerned for her safety, David, despite his age, rushed over. He quickly reached the scene and struggled with the attacker. David said he repeatedly tried to push the man away, but he kept yelling at the woman. The surrounding people were also shouting, making it hard for David to hear the conversation. Eventually, another bystander, Gary, joined in to help. Together, they managed to pull the attacker away from the woman. At that moment, David heard someone in the crowd shout, "Knife! He has a knife!" David said he didn't see a knife but instinctively grabbed the attacker's arm and used his body weight to pin him to the ground. The attacker then ceased resisting and started shouting, "He deceived me! He ruined me!" The police also interviewed another helpful witness, Gary Winkler, a 63-year-old pastry shop owner. Gary had just finished participating in church activities when the incident occurred. He was heading towards Building C1, next to the church, when he heard the crash. As he rushed over, he saw the attacker assaulting a man on the ground while people around were screaming and calling for help in vain. Gary pulled the attacker away from the woman, only to be warned by bystanders that the attacker had a knife. That's when he noticed the Asian man holding a knife about 8 inches long. Gary managed to wrestle the knife away from the attacker just as David pinned him to the ground. According to witness and clinic staff accounts, the story unfolded as follows. Gary handed the knife to his friend, Modi, who carefully placed it on a nearby green electrical box and stood guard to ensure no one touched it. Gary shouted at the attacker, "Are you crazy? You killed him." Sun Hongla responded, "That's exactly what I wanted to do." In an interview with Zada, a clinic employee, the police gathered more crucial information. Zada, an Iranian dental assistant at the clinic, identified the attacker as Sun Hongla and the victim on the ground as Dr. Lu Quan, his boss. Zada had worked for Dr. Lu Quan for 6 years, and his colleague Chen Haijing had been there for 4 years, handling paperwork and finances. During Chen Haijing's tenure, her husband, Sun Hongla, had visited the clinic many times as a patient, so everyone knew him. However, rumors later surfaced that Chen Haijing and Dr. Lu Quan were having an affair, which led to Dr. Lu Quan's divorce from his former wife, Dr. Jun Lijia. Dr. Jun Lijia specialized in cosmetic procedures. Previously, the couple worked in separate rooms but shared clinic space in room 100 even after their separation. Divorce, they continued to share the clinic for a long time. 2 days before the incident, Dr. Jun Lijia moved out but remained in the same building, now in room 130. About 4 months before the incident, Dr. Jun Lijia confided in Zada that her husband was having an affair with a ping-pong coach. 3 months later, Zada was surprised to find that the coach had become his colleague. A month before the incident, Dr. Lu Quan introduced a woman named Christo to Zada, saying she was the new receptionist, and asked Zada to show her some basic procedures. Christo mentioned she had no medical knowledge but was a quick learner and would do her best. She also said she had known Dr. Lu Quan for 10 years and was his ping-pong coach. The last time Zada saw Sun Hongla was about a month and a half before the incident when he came looking for Dr. Lu Quan, who was not present that day. 3 days later, after finishing his last patient appointment, Dr. Lu Quan announced he was closing early because he had received death threats via text message. He appeared anxious and personally checked all the doors. He refused to go home, saying the clinic felt safer. Following the threat, Dr. Lu Quan immediately went to China and arranged for other dentists to temporarily help at the clinic. He had returned from China only 2 weeks before the incident. On the day of the incident, around noon, Dr. Lu Quan suggested taking everyone out for lunch. There were 4 people in the clinic at the time: Zada, Dr. Lu Quan, Chen Haijing, referred to by Zada as the boss's girlfriend number 1, and Christo, referred to as the boss's girlfriend number 2. Since they all went out together, they took one car. Chen Haijing had a black Honda, and Christo had a BMW i3 registered under Dr. Lu Quan's name but used by her. According to Zada and other witnesses, the story continued as follows. Dr. Lu Quan drove to work that day in a rented Toyota Corolla. Among the 4, Zada's car, a black Nissan Rogue SUV, was the largest, so they all rode in Zada's car to a nearby Korean barbecue restaurant. After lunch, around 1 p.m., they returned to the parking lot outside the clinic. Dr. Lu Quan sat in the front passenger seat. Seeing 2 patients standing at the building entrance, he quickly got out and started talking to a man named Oza. As they were exchanging a few words, a white Mercedes suddenly sped towards them, hitting Dr. Lu Quan directly. While the police were interviewing witnesses, Officer McFinn approached the suspect, Sun Hongla. At this point, Sun Hongla was sitting by the curb, head down with a vacant look in his eyes. McFinn asked if he was injured. Without lifting his head, Sun Hongla replied, "Can you kill me? I don't want to live anymore. She deceived me and cheated on me with that man." McFinn asked, "So you deliberately ran into him?" Sun Hongla responded, "Yes." When asked for the reason, Sun Hongla didn't answer directly but kept repeating, "Kill me, "I don't want to live, just shoot me." Seeing that Sun Hongla was unwilling to talk further, McFinn left other officers to guard him and went to interview more witnesses at the scene. Meanwhile, another officer began questioning Chen Haijing. At this point, Chen Haijing was sitting on a red flower bed in the parking lot, wearing dark blue nurse scrubs with blood all over her left hand, both arms, her stomach, and her pants. Facing the officer's questions, Chen Haijing immediately revealed a shocking detail. The victim, Lu Quan, was not only her boss but also her boyfriend, and the attacker was her husband, Sun Hongla. Despite appearing upset while recounting the events, Chen Haijing's tone was remarkably calm, showing little emotion. Emotional fluctuation. As the rain began to fall, the officer continued the interrogation. Chen Haijing explained that she married Sun Hongla in 2003, and they had an 8-year-old son. She stated that she and Dr. Lu Quan began their affair while working together in January 2014. By September, Sun Hongla discovered her infidelity, and the couple started sleeping separately. In October, they filed for divorce, and Chen Haijing moved out. Since Dr. Lu Quan was already married, she couldn't move in with him and instead stayed with him temporarily at a hotel in Lake Forest. After 2 weeks at the hotel, Dr. Lu Quan took her to China during Thanksgiving in November. Chen Haijing flew back to Irvine to spend the holiday with her son. This brief visit rekindled a sense of family between her and Sun Hongla. Chen Haijing recounted that after Thanksgiving, she returned to China to meet Lu Quan and officially ended their relationship. On January 22 of this year, she returned to the U.S. alone, reconciled with Sun Hongla, and resumed living with her husband and son. The family even vacationed in Hawaii together, enjoying their time. Chen Haijing noted that although she had broken up with Lu Quan, they kept in touch via WeChat. 4 months later, in May 2015, Lu Quan returned to the U.S., staying for just 3 weeks before heading back to China. During those 3 weeks, he was extremely busy. Lu Quan invited Chen Haijing to his hotel to talk, and she agreed, rekindling their relationship. Poor Sun Hongla thought his family had been mended and that his wife had returned to him, but it was all a deception. When Sun Hongla discovered his wife's renewed infidelity, he gave Chen Haijing an ultimatum: stay with him and their son or leave for Lu Quan. Chen Haijing chose to stay with her husband. When asked about the weapon, Chen Haijing said that Sun Hongla had bought the knife in May 2015, 2 months before the incident. At that time, Sun Hongla claimed he bought the knife for hunting, but according to Chen Haijing, he had never gone hunting in all their years together. Strangely, just a day or two after buying the knife, Sun Hongla also purchased a small safe to store it. The knife was about 10 inches long and could not be folded. Chen Haijing described that around 1 p.m. on the day of the incident, after lunch at the Korean barbecue restaurant, the group returned to the parking lot. Lu Quan quickly walked towards the main entrance to speak with a patient. As she crossed the parking lot, a white Mercedes slowly approached from the east and stopped beside her. Chen Haijing was startled to see her husband, Sun Hongla, staring at her with a menacing look. Before she could approach to speak with him, he stepped on the gas, accelerating straight into Lu Quan, throwing him a considerable distance. As Lu Quan tried to get up from the bushes, Sun Hongla rushed at him with a knife in hand. Chen Haijing said she immediately ran over, standing between Lu Quan and Sun Hongla, trying to grab Sun Hongla's right hand that held the knife but couldn't stop him. At this point, several bystanders rushed to help and eventually pulled Sun Hongla away. Seeing Lu Quan on the ground, Chen Haijing, using her nursing skills, immediately began performing CPR. After the police took over, she ran to Sun Hongla, asking why he did this. Sun Hongla replied that it was too late and asked her to take care of their son and his parents. In another corner of the scene, Christo, a clinic employee, was against a wall, clearly still in shock from the horrifying event. Medical staff and police noticed dried blood around her nose, mouth, and hands. She had no visible injuries except a knife wound on her left calf. To ensure she received timely treatment, paramedics took Christo to a nearby hospital in Irvine. At 3:55 p.m., Officer James Wood arrived at the hospital to question Christo. The doctor informed him that Christo had been crying and screaming hysterically in the ambulance but had since calmed down. Her left leg had a stab wound, but fortunately, it didn't damage any bones, so she would be discharged soon. Christo told the police that she came to the U.S. in 1999 and became an American citizen in 2005. At that time, she worked at the Los Angeles Table Tennis Association as a coach, well-liked by many students. Also, in 2005, she met and fell deeply in love with Dr. Lu Quan at the table tennis courts. Even though she knew Lu Quan was married, she was willing to be the other woman and secretly continued their relationship. In 2013, Christo became pregnant and flew back to her hometown in Hunan, China, to give birth. In February 2014, Christo and Lu Quan's daughter, Kay, was born. During this period, Lu Quan also spent time in China as he had opened several pediatric dental clinics there. Though she heard that his business wasn't doing well and was constantly losing money, Lu Quan was looking for sponsors and investors in China while also visiting Christo and their daughter in Hunan. Christo mentioned that she knew Lu Quan had a new lover and was still secretly meeting with Chen Haijing. When asked if she felt angry or jealous, Christo replied no, saying she had a child with Lu Quan and could only follow his wishes. She added that Lu Quan referred to both her and Chen Haijing as his wives. Christo said she returned to the U.S. 3 months before the incident. As soon as she came back, Lu Quan arranged for her to work at his dental clinic. She hoped to bring her daughter to the U.S. and had booked a flight for July 26, just 8 days later. Unfortunately, the tragedy happened today. She recounted that when she saw Sun Hongla repeatedly attacking Lu Quan in the parking lot, she and Chen Haijing ran to intervene. During the struggle, she was stabbed in the leg, but she believed Sun Hongla didn't intentionally target her and probably accidentally stabbed her while trying to stab Lu Quan, who was on the ground. After the interrogation, Lu Quan's second daughter, Lily, arrived at the hospital and took Christo home. Around 6 p.m., Lily drove Christo back to the scene to retrieve her BMW 320i. However, the police informed them they had a search warrant and needed to examine the car first. During their conversation, Lily mentioned she was at home near the University of California, Irvine, when she received calls from both her mother and Christo about her father being stabbed. Lily said that 8 years ago, when she was 14, she knew about her father's affair with Christo but had no idea they had a child together. Lily shared that 2 months ago, in May 2015, her father returned home and played a recording on his iPhone. It was a voice message from Sun Hongla, sent via WeChat, threatening to bring a gun to the clinic to confront Lu Quan. The recording also captured Chen Haijing crying in the background. Lily said both she and her father were very worried about the message but didn't report it to the police. In May, he came back to Irvine on June 18 to attend a court hearing related to a patient's financial lawsuit. When asked if she knew that Chen Haijing was also her father's lover, Lily seemed surprised and said she didn't. She explained that Chen Haijing previously worked at her mother's clinic, Dr. Jun Lejia, which was in the same clinic but in a different room. After her parents' divorce, Chen Haijing started working for her father. When asked if her father had any other enemies besides Sun Honglu, Lily mentioned that her father had expressed concerns about a man named Mr. Chang. Luan had said that Mr. Chang hated him and might harm him, but Lily was unsure of the reasons. Meanwhile, the suspect Sun Hongla had been taken to the police station. He began his interrogation at 5:54 p.m. Sun Hongla explained that he and his wife had been married for 12 years and had an 8-year-old son named David. The family had lived in Irvine for over 5 years before the incident. Chen Haijing's parents had flown in from China to help care for their grandson. Despite living in the same house, Sun Hongla said he felt awkward because everyone knew about his wife's affair. The couple had been sleeping in separate rooms for a long time. Sun Hongla recounted that he used to trust his wife, but in September of the previous year, he found a traffic ticket in their mailbox. It recorded Chen Haijing running a red light in the morning a few days earlier, with a photo from a traffic camera. Sun Hongla noticed the incident occurred near Santa Ana, which was not on Chen Heng's usual route to work. After checking the map, he was surprised to find many hotels around that area. What was more shocking was that, through a private investigator, he discovered that his wife was meeting Luan almost daily to rent a room. Feeling deeply betrayed, Sun Hongla confronted Chen Haoying, who admitted to the affair and said she wanted to return to China with Luan, leaving Sun Hongla to calm down alone. On September 16, 2014, after Chen Haoying moved out, Sun Hongla filed for divorce. To manage daily child care, he had to bring his parents from Shandong to help. However, things took a turn after 2 months. In November 2014, Chen Haoying flew back to the US from China to spend a joyful Thanksgiving with their son. At this time, she revealed a secret. Initially, her relationship with Luan was just flirtatious, without any physical involvement, but one day Luan drugged her, making her unconscious, and took many nude photos of her, which he kept on his computer. Luan then showed her great care and concern, which led her to decide to be with him. However, while in China, Chen Haoying discovered she had cancer and that her treatment was ineffective. She believed Luan's multiple affairs had exposed her to something that caused her illness. Sun Hongla was shocked, believing that Luan had caused his wife's cancer. He urged Chen Haoying to return to their family, and she agreed. However, she was worried about her green card status, fearing that leaving Luan's clinic would result in losing her U.S. health insurance and facing significant debt. Sun Hongla reassured her that they could remarry to solve the green card issue and that he would help her find a new job, making it unnecessary to work at Luan's clinic. In January 2015, after Chen Haoying returned to the U.S., Sun Hongla hired a lawyer to withdraw the divorce petition. Records show that on April 24, 2015, 3 months before the incident, Sun Hongla and Chen Haoying officially remarried. Facing police interrogation, Sun Hongyi stated that after remarrying, he quickly realized his wife was still deceiving him. Outwardly, Chen Haoying had found a new job in Newport Beach, but she continued her secret relationship with Luan. He said that by then, Luan's clinic was struggling financially, so Chen Haoying left him to return to Sun Hongyi. She not only wanted a green card but also full custody of their son and their home in Irvine. Upon discovering his wife's ongoing secret meetings with Luan, Sun Hongyi repeatedly told Chen Haoying that he wanted to kill Luan. When the police asked if he also wanted to kill Chen Haoying, Sun Hongyi immediately responded, "I could never harm my wife." He said he still had feelings for her and hoped they could reconcile, but he harbored deep hatred for Luan alone. Sun Hongyi recounted that this morning, Chen Haoying said she was going to work, but he was suspicious because she had just found this new job, and it seemed unlikely she would be working overtime on a Saturday so soon. So he quietly drove to Luan's clinic. In the parking lot, he saw Chen Haoying's Honda. Angrily, he stormed into the building to confront his wife but found the clinic door closed with a note on it. Recognizing Chen Haoying's handwriting, he turned back to his car and waited in the parking lot. When he saw Luan and his wife getting out of a car together, rage and hatred consumed him. Initially, he intended to talk to them, but everything became a blur in his mind. According to Sun Hongyi and other witnesses, the story continued as follows. Initially, Sun Hongyi planned to confront Chen Haoying and Luan, but in his fury, he stepped on the gas and rammed into Luan, sending him flying. He then grabbed the knife he had prepared in the car and charged at Luan. At this point, we have heard the testimonies of most people involved in the case. However, there is one more person, although not present at the scene, whose testimony could help us understand the whole story better. 2 days after the incident, on July 20th, the police interviewed Dr. Junal Jha, the victim's wife, to gather more information. Dr. Junal Jha, born in 1964, was 4 years younger than her husband, Luan. She graduated from Sichuan University a few years behind Luan, but they studied different majors. One pursued dentistry, and the other internal medicine. They married in 1988. Their first daughter, Jen Nice, was born in 1991, their second daughter, Lily, in 1993, and their youngest son, Jack, in 2002. Seeking better opportunities, the couple emigrated to the U.S. During their time in the U.S., Luan completed a master's degree at the University of California, San Francisco, and a doctorate in dentistry at the University of California, Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Junul Jha earned 2 doctorates in medicine and molecular biology at UCLA. In 2005, Dr. Junul Jha opened her own cosmetic and anti-aging clinic in Irvine. In 2009, she was featured in a special interview on Phoenix TV discussing anti-aging issues on the Daily Topic program. When asked about her personal life, Dr. Junul Jha revealed that she had long known about her husband's infidelity. She knew Luan had an ongoing affair with Christo, a table tennis coach, but she didn't want to divorce him for the sake of their children's upbringing. In September 2014, she received a call from Sun Hongla, who wanted to arrange a meeting. They met at a public pool in their residential area. Sun Hongla bluntly stated that he had hired a private investigator. Detective and confirmed that Dr. Junul Jha's husband, Luan Shan, and his wife, Chen Haiying, were having an affair. He also discovered that Luan and another mistress, Christo, had a child in China who was 17 months old. After this meeting, Dr. Junul Jha said she was utterly disillusioned with Luan. She had always known Luan had affairs with many women but had never caught him with concrete evidence, or perhaps didn't want to find it. Now, with Sun Hongla revealing everything, she felt it was time to divorce. After the meeting, Dr. Junul Jha immediately called Luan, who was in China, and informed him of her decision to divorce. Luan simply responded with, "Okay." When asked about Mr. Chang, whom Lily had mentioned as a potential threat, Dr. Junul Jha explained that Mr. Chang and Luan had a financial dispute. Mr. Chang had paid $140,000 to Luan to paint an office building, but Luan didn't keep his promise, took the money, and found various excuses to delay the work. Dr. Junul Jha said that Mr. Chang was a good man and wouldn't harm Luan. On the afternoon of July 20th, investigators went to Western Digital, where Sun Hongla worked, to question his direct manager, Mr. Chen, about Sun Hong's behavior before the incident. Mr. Chen stated that Sun Hongyi had joined the company in February 2008. Both had studied in Singapore, so they had many common topics to discuss and got along well. He described Sun Hongyi as friendly and calm, who never quarreled with anyone. Sun Hongyi was hardworking, dedicated to his job, and one of the best employees under his supervision. A year before the incident, in July 2014, Mr. Chen personally wrote a recommendation letter proposing Sun Hongla for a promotion. Soon, Hongla was then promoted to the position of chief engineer. When asked about Sun Hong's personal life, Mr. Chen mentioned that in September of the previous year, Sun Hongyi confided that his wife was having an affair with a dentist and had left to live with him, abandoning their child. To take care of his son, Sun Hongla had to bring his parents from China to help. Sun Hongla had tears in his eyes while recounting this. Mr. Chen explained that, according to company procedures, he would have one-on-one meetings with employees every 2 weeks to review progress reports. The last time he met with Sun Hongyi was 3 days before the incident, on July 15. At that time, Sun Hongyi appeared completely normal. In the work log, Mr. Chen had rated Sun Hong's performance as excellent overall. Sun Hongyi had a bright future, but since moving to the U.S., he had faced many personal challenges, ultimately leading to an irreparable mistake. 5 years after the incident, in September 2020, this sensational case among the Chinese community in the U.S. finally went to trial. At the trial, during over 4 hours of cross-examination, Sun Hongla detailed the complex relationship between himself, his wife Chen Haiying, the victim Luan, and the table tennis coach Christo. He admitted to having threatened to kill Luan multiple times before the incident, expressing sentiments like, "he should die," and "he deserves to die." However, he defended himself by claiming that he did not intend to kill Luan when he drove to the clinic that day. He only wanted to talk to Chen Hang and ask why she kept deceiving him, but when he saw Chen Hang in the parking lot, he lost control of his emotions and acted impulsively. His lawyer argued that Sun Hongyi was blinded by rage at that moment and should be convicted of manslaughter rather than first-degree murder. In response, the prosecution presented 160 pages of WeChat messages showing that Sun Hongyi had premeditated the act for a long time. The messages revealed that Sun Hongyi had repeatedly expressed his intention to kill Won a month before the incident. He had bought the murder weapon at a Big Five sporting goods store and stored it in a safe. On the day of the incident, patient Aza saw Sun Hongla arrive at the clinic. There was a note on the door that Sun Hongla recognized as written by his wife, Chen Hang. After discovering this, Sun Hongla did not leave but waited patiently for Won to return to exact his revenge. All these factors indicated premeditated murder. Sun Hongla's lawyer argued that the WeChat messages between Sun Hongla and Chen Hang suggested that the knife was meant to protect Chen Hang. Sun Hongla had exposed the affair between Won and Chen Hang to Won's wife. The lawyer also claimed that Won's wife had connections with some gang members who had used nude photos of Chen Hang to threaten her. Sun Hongla bought the knife out of fear that his wife would be retaliated against. While this seemed plausible, the jury deliberated for just 1 day before unanimously concluding that Sun Hongla was guilty of first-degree murder. The judge ultimately sentenced him to 26 years in prison. After the initial verdict, Sun Hongla appealed. On March 29, 2022, the Orange County Supreme Court rejected his appeal and upheld the original sentence. The earliest he could apply for parole would be in 2041, at that time, at the age of 64, if he exhibited good behavior, he might still be released and live a peaceful second half of his life. In this love triangle case in Irvine, no one emerged victorious. Although people often say, respect the dead, the victim Won was indeed a despicable person. For his selfish interests, he hurt his wife, his 3 children, his third mistress Christo, and their daughter Kaim. From the very beginning, apart from excelling academically and flirting with women, Won seemed to have no exceptional talents. His dental clinic received only 8 reviews on its website, 5 of which were very low, ranging from 1 to 2 stars. Patients complained that while the clinic's environment was good, Won himself lacked skill and often encouraged unnecessary surgeries. More importantly, despite his qualifications, he could not fix patients' teeth effectively. Moreover, his heavily accented English made communication difficult. All 5 patients stated they would not return. Interestingly, of the 3 positive reviews, one was from Lily L and another from Jen Nice L. These names sound familiar, right? Won's eldest daughter is named Jen Nice, and his second daughter is named Lily. The remaining 5-star review was unrelated to the clinic and was instead about Won's death. This suggests that Won's clinic had a poor reputation, likely contributing to its struggling business and his haste to return to China. On the other side, Chen Hang claimed that Won drugged her, took photos, and gradually trapped her in his love affair. She also told Sun Hongla that Won infected her with a sexually transmitted disease, which eventually developed into cancer. However, the police had a different view of her statements. In his notes, investigator Davis specifically mentioned that although uncertain, they believed these diseases were fabricated. From the testimonies of various witnesses, it is clear that deep down, Sun Hongla knew that Chen Hang was unprincipled and a habitual liar. He knew she had deceived him many times, continuing her secret affair with Won Shan. He understood that Chen Hang was extremely selfish, willing to do anything immoral to obtain a green card and pay for her medical treatment. According to Won's daughter Lily, she believed Chen Hang was nothing more than a con artist. Yet there was no escape for Sun Hongla, as his love for her was too deep to let go. So what now? We don't know the status of Chen Hang's cancer treatment or whether she obtained her green card. We can only hope that if she is still alive, she will not seek out Sun Hongla again. He has suffered enough. If he had married someone else initially, his life might have been much happier. Now, this may have been a straightforward case for the police, but it reflects a rare love tragedy for all of us. What do you think about this case? Share your views in the comments below. Goodbye, and see you next time.